You've been lied to about toxic people. The most dangerous ones don't have obvious red flags. They have sophisticated camouflage. And here's what makes this terrifying. Harvard research shows the average person wastes 4.5 years of their life in toxic relationships they could have identified in the first 60 seconds of meeting. These people aren't just annoying. They're systematically dismantling your confidence, draining your energy, and rewiring your reality. In this video, I'll reveal 10 instant signs that expose toxic people before they can put on their mask. Psychological tells backed by research that 99% of people miss completely. Let's start with the most powerful sign. Something that happens in their first sentence to you that reveals everything. The first sign is what psychologists call the excessive validation trap. When someone immediately overaffirms your opinions or perspectives without knowing you. Healthy people naturally disagree on some points, even when first meeting. But toxic individuals create instant artificial harmony, agreeing enthusiastically with everything you say. This isn't genuine connection. It's calculated mirroring designed to disarm your psychological defenses. Research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that manipulative individuals agree with strangers' opinions 86% of the time in initial meetings compared to 38% for genuine individuals. They'll respond to your casual opinions with phrases like, "That's exactly how I feel," or "I was literally just thinking," that, creating an illusion of rare compatibility that feels too good to be true because it is. Test this by expressing a slightly unusual opinion. Genuine people might politely acknowledge it. Toxic people will claim it's their perspective, too. They're building a foundation for future manipulation. But this validation trap is just the surface. The second sign reveals itself in how they talk about people who aren't present, and it's chilling. The second instant red flag is the preemptive character assassination, when they subtly undermine others' credibility before you can form your own opinion. Toxic people isolate their targets by poisoning the well against potential allies. Within minutes of meeting you, they'll casually mention problems with mutual connections, disguising these attacks as helpful warnings or innocent observations. Social psychology studies show this technique creates a 47% reduction in trust between potential allies before they even interact. It's social sabotage disguised as friendly conversation. They'll say things like, "Oh, you're working with Sarah. Just be careful with her. She's great," but followed by a specific but deniable criticism. They're not being helpful. They're eliminating your support system in advance. When someone offers unsolicited negative insights about others during your first conversation, recognize it as a strategic move, not friendly advice. The third sign appears in their response to your boundaries, and it happens faster than you'd believe possible. Have you ever met someone and immediately felt uncomfortable but couldn't explain why? Your subconscious was picking up on these exact signals. Let me make them conscious for you. The third instant red flag is the immediate boundary test. When they make a small but deliberate violation of your personal space or comfort to gauge your response. Toxic people probe boundaries immediately, not accidentally. They'll make a slightly inappropriate comment, ask an overly personal question, or initiate unwanted physical contact within minutes of meeting you. Not because they're socially awkward, but as a calculated test. Behavioral psychologists at UCLA documented that manipulative individuals typically test boundaries within the first 7 minutes of meeting someone new, while respectful people maintain appropriate distance for at least 30 minutes. They might touch your arm unnecessarily while talking, stand slightly too close, or ask about your relationship status or income before it's contextually appropriate. Then watch carefully for your reaction. Pay attention to these early tests. How you respond sets the precedent for all future interactions. Healthy people respect boundaries from the start. Toxic people look for ways around them immediately. The fourth sign is hidden in plain sight. It's in the stories they tell about themselves in those crucial first minutes. The fourth instant red flag is the strategic victim narrative, when they position themselves as the hero of impossible circumstances within minutes of meeting you. Toxic people use carefully crafted personal stories to establish themselves as simultaneously victimized and exceptional. These narratives serve multiple purposes: eliciting sympathy, justifying future behavior, and creating an emotional debt before you've even formed a relationship. Research in narrative psychology shows that manipulative individuals typically share victim stories 3 times earlier in new relationships than genuine people who wait for trust to develop naturally. Within minutes, they'll tell you how they were betrayed by a business partner but heroically overcame it, or how their ex was crazy, but they were the perfect partner. These aren't vulnerable disclosures. They're strategic positioning. When someone rapidly shares stories where they're the flawless victim of others' actions, recognize this as reputation management, not authentic connection. The fifth sign reveals itself in their reaction to not being the center of attention, and it happens in a fraction of a second. We've covered 4 powerful red flags already, but the next ones are even more revealing because they're almost impossible to fake. Once you recognize these, you'll never be blindsided by toxic people again. The fifth instant red flag is the spotlight shift. When they systematically redirect any conversation that isn't focused on them, even in group settings. While healthy people naturally share conversational focus, toxic individuals cannot tolerate attention flowing to others. They'll interrupt, redirect, or hijack discussions with increasing urgency the longer they're not the center of attention. Communication researchers at Stanford found that narcissistic individuals typically interrupt conversations within 20 seconds if they're not the focus, a rate 4 times higher than emotionally healthy people. Watch them in group settings. If someone else is speaking, they'll interject with "that reminds me of when I," or physically position themselves to recapture attention. If that fails, they'll check their phone or display visible disinterest until focus returns to them. This isn't enthusiasm or excitement. It's pathological self-focus. Notice how quickly and consistently they redirect attention, especially from others' achievements or needs. The sixth sign is something you'll hear in their language pattern within the first few minutes. And once you notice it, you can't unhear it. The sixth instant red flag is forced teaming. When they create a premature sense of partnership or shared struggle using way language within minutes of meeting you. Toxic people artificially accelerate intimacy by linguistically yoking themselves to you before any real connection exists. This isn't genuine bonding. It's a psychological technique to bypass your normal vetting process. This manipulation tactic was first identified by security expert Gavin DeBecker, who found it present in 65 of cases where predatory individuals successfully gained trust quickly. They'll use phrases like "we're both dealing with the same challenge," or "people like us have to stick together," or "we'll figure this out," creating a false sense of alliance before any foundation exists. Notice premature we language. Genuine connections develop partnership language gradually. Toxic people deploy it immediately as a psychological shortcut to trust. The seventh sign appears in how they handle even the smallest disagreement, and it reveals everything about how they'll treat you later. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. The next 4 signs are the most dangerous because they're designed to feel good when you experience them. Your brain's reward system is being hijacked before your rational mind can intervene. The seventh instant red flag is the disproportionate reaction. When they respond to minor disagreement or criticism with subtle but unmistakable emotional intensity. Healthy people can handle different perspectives without emotional volatility. Toxic individuals cannot. They experience even gentle disagreement as personal rejection, responding with immediate tension, defensiveness, or cold withdrawal. Psychological research shows that individuals with high toxicity scores demonstrate measurable physiological stress responses to mild disagreement that are 3.7 times stronger than emotionally healthy individuals. You'll notice a sudden shift in their demeanor, a tightening around the eyes, a slight jaw clench, a cold tone, or a complete withdrawal of warmth following even minor disagreement. Then just as quickly, they'll mask it if they realize you've noticed. This flash of disproportionate reaction reveals their fragility and forecasts how they'll respond to future conflicts with emotional manipulation rather than healthy communication. The eighth sign is hidden in their compliments, and it contains a warning most people completely miss. The eighth instant red flag is the comparative compliment. When they praise you by criticizing others, revealing how they'll eventually talk about you. Toxic people don't give pure compliments. They give comparative ones that elevate you by denigrating others. This isn't genuine appreciation. It's a demonstration of how they create social hierarchy and division. Linguistic analysis shows that manipulative individuals use comparative compliments 4 times more frequently than genuine compliments in initial meetings. It's a reliable predictor of future triangulation. They'll say things like, "You're so much more intelligent than the other people here," or "It's refreshing to finally meet someone who gets it." Unlike most people, these aren't really about you. They're weapons against others that will eventually be turned on you. When someone compliments you by criticizing others, recognize that you're witnessing their standard operating procedure that will eventually include talking about you the same way. The 9th sign reveals itself in how they handle your success or good news. And it's subtle but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Think about the most toxic relationship you've ever witnessed. I guarantee it began with at least 7 of these 10 signs in the very first interaction. The person just didn't know what they were seeing until it was too late. The 9th instant red flag is what I call the joy thief. When they subtly diminish your enthusiasm or accomplishments within seconds of you sharing them. Toxic people cannot genuinely celebrate others' success or happiness. When you share good news, they'll respond with subtle undermining tactics, minimizing, one-upping, or shifting focus, all while appearing supportive on the surface. Research on relationship psychology shows that how someone responds to your good news is actually more predictive of relationship quality than how they respond to bad news. It's called active, constructive responding. Share an achievement, and they'll say, "That's great. Of course, the real challenge comes next." Or, "Nice reminds me of when I did something similar, but bigger." They might even immediately change the subject. All forms of subtle diminishment. This response pattern isn't random. It's a reliable preview of how they'll systematically undermine your confidence and achievements throughout the relationship. The 10th and most revealing sign is something they can't control, no matter how practiced their performance. And it happens in the most unexpected moment. The 10th and most powerful instant red flag is what I call the mask slip. A momentary glimpse of their true nature that occurs when they think no one is watching or evaluating them. Toxic people maintain a carefully constructed persona during social interactions. But maintaining this facade requires constant energy, creating brief moments where the mask drops, usually when interacting with someone they perceive as having no social value to them. Behavioral psychologists call this impression management fatigue. The inability to maintain false presentation consistently across all interactions, particularly with those deemed unimportant. Watch how they treat service staff, assistants, or anyone they perceive as having no value to offer them. The sudden shift in tone, the flash of contempt, the dismissive gesture, that's not a lapse in manners. It's a glimpse of their authentic character. This momentary authenticity is the most reliable indicator of who they really are. The person they are to the waiter, the receptionist, or the parking attendant is the person they'll eventually be to you once you're no longer new and exciting. Now that you know these 10 instant red flags, you have a psychological advantage most people never develop. If you're finding these insights valuable, hit subscribe now, because in the second half of this video, I'm revealing the most dangerous signs that actually feel good when you experience them. These 10 signs aren't random behaviors. They're a consistent pattern that toxic people can't fully hide, even in brief interactions. The reason most people miss them is that we're conditioned to doubt our instincts and give others the benefit of the doubt. But your intuition isn't random. It's processing thousands of subtle cues your conscious mind can't handle. That uncomfortable feeling you get around certain people isn't social anxiety. It's your psychological immune system working perfectly. The most powerful protection isn't cutting toxic people out after they've caused damage. It's identifying them in the first 60 seconds and maintaining healthy boundaries from the start. Remember, toxic people don't show these signs occasionally. They display patterns of them consistently. One sign might be a coincidence. Multiple signs are a warning you can't afford to ignore.